We're going to cross now to Nicole Zedeck from I-24 in Israel. We're going to bring Nicole Zedeck in I-24 in Israel. Nicole, thank you very much for your time. Now, President Isaac Herzog has just released a statement. We're waiting for the funeral to begin of the Bibas family. Isaac Herzog has just released a statement, very moving. He says the entire country and entire people are in a time of mourning. He says all of us, an entire people with broken hearts, are accompanying them to eternal rest. This is not how we prayed for them to return to us. In our mind's eye, we saw them returning, shining with their golden heads, with the lively, playful gaze that shone in their little eyes. Nicole, Israel is grieving today.
Israel is certainly grieving today. It's an unofficial day of mourning, as you see on the screen. Tens of thousands of people who have been taking to the streets following this funeral procession as it made its way from central Israel all the way towards southern Israel, where it's still making its way. And one of the reasons that it was delayed was because of the masses of people that followed this funeral procession every step of the way to give one final goodbye to the Bibas family. And it is a very difficult day here in Israel as you see not only the wave and sea of Israeli flags, but those orange balloons that have also become a symbol of those two little red-headed boys and their mother Sharri as well. And so it's incredibly difficult, but also this can provide some sort of closure for many of the Israeli public, finally seeing them laid to rest after more than 500 days in terror captivity. But many of the family members and many of the Israeli public say that even though they are seeing this funeral procession and these three souls finally buried here in Israel, they can't actually get that closure until all of the hostages are back home. As we're speaking right now, there are still 63 hostages in the Gaza Strip. 4 more bodies are expected to be released either today or tomorrow. These 4 bodies included in phase 1 of the ceasefire deal, where we saw 33 names on that list. But the questions remaining around phase 2 of this ceasefire, or if there could possibly be an extension of phase 1, all the while as 63 hostages, are still in the Gaza Strip. Until they're all back home, the Israeli public says that that little bit of closure will not be there. And so that is also why today is such a difficult and emotional day for many people here in Israel.
Yeah, it is indeed, and for the Jewish community in particular around the world, but as well, anyone who has any goodness in their hearts will be absolutely devastated. This is a dark day for everyone. Nicole, you just mentioned there that the funeral is delayed because of just how many Israelis turned out to show their support. So we're waiting for that still to begin. It was meant to begin about 20 minutes ago. Can you tell us how the eulogies will work, who we're expecting to hear from very shortly?
Well, we've already heard some statements coming out from the Bibas family. Yarden Bibas, his sister, in fact, so the sister-in-law of Sharri Bibas, already stating that we're watching with grief, and Yarden wishes that he could hug every single one of the people, of the masses of Israelis that are accompanying him and his family on this emotional and devastating day. And he says that he hopes one day soon that the Israeli public will not only be united in grief, but in more joyful times. And so that's so far the message that we're hearing from the Bibas family. We'll likely hear more emotional eulogies from the Bibas family, from Sharri's sister as well, the only living member of her family still alive, as far as the sister of Sharri, as Sharri's 2 parents were also killed on October 7th during the massacre at their home in Kibbutz Nir Oz. And so this is also a difficult day because it brings many of those emotions back from October 7th, and it's a grim reminder of the reality that the people here in Israel have been facing and coming to terms with over the past 16 months. This is a grim reality when you watch some of these funerals, seeing which family members are present to give a eulogy and which family members are not present to see their daughter be laid to rest. And so we will be hearing some of those emotional eulogies later in the day, possibly even hearing from President Isaac Herzog as well. We heard from him yesterday as Oded Lifshitz, 83-year-old peace activist, who was also one of the bodies returned along with Sharri, Ariel, and Kfir Bibas. Oded Lifshitz was also laid to rest at his home in Kibbutz Nir Oz just yesterday. And we heard from Isaac Herzog then, as well as Ohad Lifshitz's wife, Yocheved Lifshitz, who was also kidnapped on October 7th. These are two peace activists who spent their life transporting Palestinians from the Gaza Strip to receive proper health care here in Israel. And so Yocheved said what it was so shocking about their abduction was that they were kidnapped by the very same people that they spent their life trying to help. And so we're expected to hear some very more emotional eulogies, and you can see everyone here in Israel anxiously waiting and coming together and really trying to support each other through this difficult day.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned Oded Lifshitz and, you know, the reality that he had spent his whole life helping Palestinians, trying to achieve peace. And this has been a big wake-up call because we know, we can see there's no pretending Hamas doesn't want peace. It merely exists to bring murder and destruction. The fact that it can target a tiny baby, a child, their loving mother. This is why we're watching this funeral procession. And not only were they kidnapped from their homes, their beds, they were murdered by bare hands. Kafir, a violent death at just 10 months old. So traumatic. You can't even imagine a baby killed by terrorists like this in a movement that's won so much support, Nicole, around the world, including here in Australia. A baby that never got to celebrate his first birthday, and the world is watching as he's buried today.
And Sharri, what you're speaking about right now, this shock and this surprise, I think it does speak to the Israeli psyche as well, because even after the October 7th massacre, where Israel was shown firsthand the cruelty of this terror group inside Gaza that indiscriminately murdered Israelis, Christians, Muslims, foreign workers who were here just working the agricultural fields. 5 of them still captive in Gaza. They're part of those 63 that are still there. They have no ties from Israel. We're talking about a Nepalese, a Tanzanian, and a Thai worker that are still in Gaza. And so that talks about the indiscriminate hate and cruelty that we saw from Hamas. It's still following October 7th, when we saw and heard about the cruelty that these terror groups did and the way that they killed those 2 little Bibas boy as well as Sharri. The Israeli public was once again shocked. And that's what surprises many of us when you hear this news. How can we again and again be shocked by the cruelty? But that's the Israeli spirit, and that's the spirit even of Oded Lifshitz and Yocheved, who spent their life trying to make peace with those people across the border. And every time that we hear another wake-up call, and we're facing one of those wake-up calls today with the funeral of Sharri, Ariel, and Kafir, it's shocking that Israel can still be shocked by the cruelty of the terror group that is in Gaza, yet still there's these remnants of hope that Israel thinks that they can continue to move past some of these darkest days. And I think that's what brings the Israeli public together, those moments of hope that they can continue to cling on to despite the horrors and the cruelty we continue to learn about.
Yeah, all right. Nicole Zedeck, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us on this terrible, sad day in Israel.